Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking and answering some of your questions, and I'm going to talk about the document you require to go back to your home country with your baby. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the questions you've asked me, and I'm also going to talk about when you're returning back to your home country, or if you're a Nigerian and you're returning back to Nigeria with your baby, the document you need to get, what you need to know. Stick with me. How long did it take for you to get the baby's birth certificate? Okay, so after I registered, like I said, we registered for the baby's birth certificate online with the unique UCI number that was given to me at the hospital. So that was what we used to register for his certificate online was house, and it didn't take, I think it was a week or so. It wasn't up to a week, and it was delivered to the house. He asked, what vaccine did you take before leaving Canada? So I remember that at the hospital he collected hepatitis B. Please make sure it was written in his card, in his immunization card, that he has collected that. So, however, I went to another province, Toronto, after I think about 1 month. Yes. Yeah, I know that every video I do, I always talking about the next video to expect. So I'm going to show you how to travel with a newborn. Tips to get through a long haul flight with a baby. So I went to Toronto, another province, Toronto, when he was 1 month, and we're due to go back to Nigeria 2 months after. So, but I wanted to just have the experience of another province, and I also wanted to see how it will be like to travel alone with him, right? And this one was a 4 hour trip. Imagine we are still going to do 8 hours and another stopover and 6 hours back to Nigeria. So I wanted to just have that experience, and I'm glad I made that trip. Now, why I'm saying this is because when I went with him at 1 month to the new province we were, Toronto, we collected another immunization record card there, because this was all easy, and he collected some immunization there, which I'm going to tell you. It was all easy because he had his health card. Like I said in my first video before this one, make sure that you are able to get an health card for your child, because anything health related, medication, immunization, it's going to be totally free for him or her. So I just took his health card and I showed them at the medical center there, and they gave him his immunization that was due. So at 2 months, yes, at 2 months, I'm reading it from the card. So this was the card they gave us at Ontario province, right? So at 2 months, he collected some other verses. The words are just long and big. So he collected them, and I told them to mark it in his card, so I would know that he has also collected these vaccines. So 2 months, they all started from 2 months. I know in Nigeria, I think it's about 6 weeks and all that. So after he collected the one at Toronto, it was marked in his card, and then we traveled down to Nigeria. So I'm still talking about immunization. I'll still talk about the document you need to travel down to Nigeria. So we traveled down to Nigeria, and I remember calling my midwife before I even left Canada soil, that my son did not collect BCG. They won't give him BCG in Canada, because you know that they only give vaccines that are peculiar, diseases that are peculiar to their country, and some of them are not peculiar to their country, and it's peculiar to Nigeria. And so if you are taking your child to your home country, not necessarily Nigeria alone, make sure that you collect the vaccines that he is or are is supposed to collect in your home country. For BCG is important, and he wasn't giving that in Canada. So I called my midwife, and then she said immediately we get to Nigeria, I should bring him in for the vaccine. And when we landed, it was at night. The next morning, I took him straight to the hospital. I did my antenatal care, and they gave him the vaccine. But at the time we landed, he was already 3 months old. So when we got to the hospital, they gave him another immunization card, and they gave him another immunization card in Nigeria, and then we calculated the number of weeks and the vaccines that he's supposed to collect at certain weeks. For instance, at 10 weeks, there were certain immunization he was supposed to collect. And since it wasn't in his card, that's why make sure that every little document they give you, put everything together and bring them back because they are all very necessary. When I went to the hospital, I took all of his immunization cards with me so that they can see the ones he has collected, the ones he will need at his present month, as his present week he is. And so they checked the record, and then they checked 10 weeks. So he's supposed to collect this, collect that, and then they gave it to him. So I think that is about that with immunization for the child. So now moving on to the documents you need to travel when you are coming back to your home country, when you are going back to your home country, or if you're coming to Nigeria. Yeah, so you know that your child is a Canadian, right? And if you're going to Nigeria, they will see that child as a foreigner, even though the parents are Nigerians. So I didn't know this. It was when we started making preparation to travel down that I found out that he would need a visa on arrival. Yes, you heard me right. With a Canadian passport, you can travel to so many countries and all that. But coming to Nigeria, you also need to check with your home country. I know so many people are listening to me from other parts of the world and not necessarily Nigerians. So check with your home country if your child can travel down with his Canadian passport without collecting a visa on arrival. For some countries, visa on arrival. For some countries, it is visa free, right? Like totally visa free, just come in. So for Nigeria, it is visa on arrival, and this is how you have to go about it. So first, I started making research, and I found out that it's either you do two things. You either go to an embassy nearest to you while you are still in Canada. So if you have a Nigerian embassy close to you, and I think as at that time, the one we had was about another 4 hours away from Ontario, where I traveled to. So it was another long distance, and I'd be traveling with this boy, and I was like, I don't think I want to do another long trip with him. So what is the other option to take? So and then we found out and realized that we could actually so like I said, either you go to the embassy, Nigerian embassy close to you where you are in Canada. I think we have one in Ottawa. Yes, there's one in Ottawa. So if you're around Ottawa, you're close to Ottawa, you can do that. Just get a visa for the child or do a Nigerian passport for the child there, so that when you're traveling you won't have any issues, right? So that when you're coming down with the child, you just use that. Or another thing you can do is to send a mail to CGIS office at nigeriaimmigration.gov.ng. Send a mail saying application for visa on arrival, and you state that you are this person, your husband is this, put your passport number, put your child's passport number, and tell them that your child will be traveling with you so date, and you need a visa on arrival. So someone from Abuja will then respond to your mail. Hopefully, if they respond on time, will respond to your mail. When they respond to your mail, then you can then proceed to pay online the application fee. I think it's around $185. So when you have done that, you will print out the documents that they will send to you. The document is probably going to look like something like this: application for visa on arrival from Nigeria Immigration Service. So you print out that document, and when you're about to fly, that is what you will show if they ask for it. And when you get to Nigeria, that is what you will show. Then when you get to Nigeria, you go to the part they will put foreigners on one side. You go to that place where they will say visa on arrival, and then when you get there, they will then stamp your child's passport. Another way is if you know someone in immigration office, and that is the route we went. If you know someone in immigration office, so that they can respond to that mail on time. So what we did was we reached out to this person, and then the person was able to fast track it for us. But you would have to get a document before you can travel with your child. They would say, let me read it out. I'm directed to refer to the application for visiting visa on arrival. So let me skip that. The expected visitor will be issued with visa on arrival at Murtala Muhammed International Airport, Lagos. That's if you're landing in Lagos. If it's Abuja, they'll put that where it will land. Please accept the assurance of the warm regards of the Controller General of Immigration Service. So you get that document. This document has expires 14 days from the date of issuance, meaning that you just have to calculate when you'll be traveling. That is when you should apply. For instance, when I still had 1 month to when I was going to be going back, when my return ticket was to go back to Nigeria. So at that point, I didn't apply for this document because I know it will expire, right? So I waited till it was like 3 weeks before we left. And I think we eventually did it 2 weeks before I left Canada. So the document was still fresh in my hand and it was still within the expiration period. So when we got to the airport, and I don't think they didn't ask, did they ask? Okay, when I got to the airport before they could carry the baby, they asked for this document and I presented it in Canada before I left with the baby. And when we got to Nigeria, oh, the immigration staff or was already waiting, and so they helped us to get through to the visa on arrival place where he would get his visa. We waited for a while, right? And thankfully we had informed them before we got there. It will have taken us maybe more than 1 hour or 2 hours that we were there. And so the visa was stamped. His visa, Nigerian visa, was stamped on his Canada passport, and that was how we were able to enter the country. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in my next video.